The more I researched, the more clear it became that the DNA wasn't wrong, but it was telling a story that I hadn't understood. If your DNA test shows some things that maybe seem wrong or places that you weren't expecting, I wouldn't dismiss them right out. Have you taken a DNA test? I've taken a lot. And I've definitely opened up updates and said, this cannot be right. This cannot be right.
To hell with that stupid DNA test and
The test that I found the most accurate to my paper trail was the MyHeritage test. I did a whole video on that. I thought the percentages were so close to what I expected. Like I said, it matched my paper trail, except for this one thing. I was like, what? When Puerto Rico popped up in mine, I was completely confused. I have no family story of Puerto Rico. There's no paper trail leading to Puerto Rico.
And she's Puerto Rican.
So how did they end up as a DNA community?
Eastern Puerto Rico. And they're descendants of the United States, Texas, and New York. Puerto Rico. Okay. I definitely don't have Puerto Rican ancestry.
What I uncovered about migration, survival, and identity completely changed how I saw my ancestry story, and I hope it will change how you see yours as well. So the first thing, I think, when people see something in their DNA that seems like wrong, that's wrong. And I think there's a better way to look at this. I think it can be wrong and right at the same time. And let me explain to you why I think that's true for me here.
And on this occasion, right is wrong and wrong is right.
So growing up, I didn't know anything about my heritage or my mom's side, except that I knew her grandmother was from Louisiana. And as I've been digging into this, mostly here on the channel, finding connections to Texas, to Mexico, just incredible connections I did not know about. But when I took the MyHeritage DNA test, something didn't add up. Seeing that Puerto Rico on there, I didn't think there was a connection. And at first I thought it was definitely a mistake. But the more I researched, the more clear it became that the DNA wasn't wrong, but it was telling a story that I hadn't understood.
Here are my genetic groups. I think this is kind of like for Ancestry. You have those awesome Ancestry communities. I love those. So Creoles of color in Louisiana. All right, so that's spot on. Louisiana, confidence level high for that. Okay. Southern USA, medium. Eastern Puerto Rico. And they're descendants of the United States, Texas, and New York. Puerto Rico. Okay. I definitely don't have Puerto Rican ancestry. My husband does, but I don't. So I don't know if it's getting confused maybe with the Creole.
I'm not going to get too in the weeds here, but basically a lot of the Spanish influence in the Louisiana, Texas borderlands area is Isleño, like Canary Islanders. I started researching that because I saw that kind of come up in my family tree, people mentioning that there might be Canary Islander, Isleño heritage. And so I was digging into that migration. And here's what I found. During the Spanish colonial period, the Canary Islands were a key source of settlers for Spain's colonies. And the Canary Islands are off the coast of Africa, and I'll put it up on a map. And the Spanish crown had even enacted a law that was called the Tributo de Sangre, the blood tribute.
Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytonashville.com.
For every 1,000 tons of goods that were shipped back to Spain, so they're sending back a bunch of great stuff to Spain, 50 Canarian families were sent to the Americas. It was kind of like a reward system. So these people settled in places like Venezuela, Cuba, Puerto Rico, where they built entire villages and they were, getting connected into the local culture. So in Puerto Rico, the Isleños played a massive role in shaping the society and community and culture there. They arrived in waves, starting in as early as 1695, and the influence is still very visible there in the traditions, family names, even some of the genetic markers. But here's where it got really personal. The same group of people, these same Isleño families who migrated to Puerto Rico, well, they were spreading all over the Americas, including what is now Texas, where my ancestors lived. This is the overlap. And I think this is why Puerto Rico is appearing in my DNA test, because there's this genetic fingerprint of shared history. I think when we're looking at DNA tests, if we can kind of expand the way we're looking at it, it's not just what is your exact family breakdown. It's kind of showing the interconnectedness of your family story and other places around the world. The Isleño roots didn't just stay in the Canary Islands. It was leaving a genetic legacy that connected me to places I never imagined having a connection to. And I think it's a reminder that DNA results aren't just about where your ancestors lived, it's about how they moved, survived, and shaped the world. So the connection to the people that I have in Texas and Mexico, those people had connection to people who then settled in Puerto Rico. And so what does this mean for you? I think if your DNA test shows some things that maybe seem wrong or places that you weren't expecting, I wouldn't dismiss them right out. It might be clues to a migration story that's been forgotten or never told at all in your family. Because I think if we look at our DNA, if we look at it as a map, bringing us to the treasure of understanding the journey that brought you here, it's a totally different perspective than just trying to get cut and dry percentages of like, this percentage this percentage that. And it's helping me to understand a little bit about the journey that my ancestors took, where they could have gone, and how different the story would be. I mean, I wouldn't be here if my ancestors had gone to Puerto Rico instead of going to Mexico and then marrying people who were there and all of that. And it's incredible. The story of our family is amazing, and I know yours is as well. So let me know if you have ever taken a DNA test, and if you have, do you have something like this where it popped up, you're like, this is kind of wrong, and then you kind of were able to look at it a different way, maybe it made sense. And if you haven't taken the MyHeritage DNA test or a 23andMe or Ancestry test, I took all three. I recommend taking all three. They all have different things that are really valuable. I'll leave a link to those below, and let me know what you think. Otherwise, we'll talk soon. Of the Spanish influence in the Louisiana, Texas borderlands area is Isleño. Tributo de sangre. Tributo de sangre. Tributo de sangre. And this is not a, I'll take a little sip. And Tributo de sangre.
Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytonashville.com.